Hi, and welcome to the Sparkle and Thrive podcast. This is your host, Joy Foster, and today I have an incredibly exciting guest, Dr. Vanita Rattan. We're going to be talking all about how she built her TikTok account from 0 to nearly 1 million followers with brave, bold, courageous content. So welcome, Dr. V. We're glad you're here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor.
Well, I feel really lucky to get to have this conversation because it's rare that you get to speak to someone who's had such massive success on a social media channel. But it turns out you're really good buddies with one of our tech fixies.
Yeah, Shrita's one of my best friends, so I'm honored to be here. She's with me today, helping me.
I'm so excited. Well, Shrita just interviewed me on my podcast last week, and we had a great conversation about International Women's Day. So anyway, I'm delighted you're here, and I'm really excited to talk about TikTok. Tech Pixies is releasing our TikTok module over the next few weeks. We've released sort of part 1, if you will, last week, and part 2 and 3 will be coming out in the coming weeks. So I'm really excited to get some real world conversation going with someone who's built an account from nothing. So tell our listeners and our viewers a little bit about your journey with TikTok. When did you start your account? Why did you start your account? And what was one of the things that really made it work in the early days?
Okay, so it's a bit embarrassing, actually, to be honest. I mean, so I'm 40. I'm turning 40 this year. I was not born of the social media era where, Facebook came out after I got married. So to go back and have to almost have a growth mindset and go back and go, I'm going to figure this thing out, was very daunting. But a few things that I picked up. Number one, I wasn't sure if there was a professional platform for doctors to be on. I didn't know if it was a place for us to be. But then when I noticed other doctors talking about skincare on TikTok and doing very well, I realized actually this is a great place to be to talk about it. So that was number one for me. Number two was I then tried to start myself and I just epically failed. I released like 3 or 4 videos that were just, I thought they were really good and they got, 3 views or something. And so I was like, then I gave up for a year. Then I noticed my niece was doing very well on there, actually, and she was 19 at the time. And so I went to her and I, asked her for her help. And I literally employed her to come one day a week to film content with me. I didn't even know how the app worked. It was such an alien thing, how you film it. When you do a reaction, how do you do that? When you do a green screen, how do you do that? How do you utilize that tool? What button do you push? So, literally the ABC of TikTok, my niece came and taught me. So I do encourage you to talk to your children or your nieces or younger people in the family, younger cousins. They are going to have so much information that we don't know actually at our age. So that's the first thing I do is I listen to them. The second thing I then started to do was to just look at my genre. So I type in skincare, for example, in TikTok or Skin Talk, we call it, and you'll see the trending videos. So you'll see what's doing really well, and you almost have to analyze it as if you're analyzing an essay. So that's how I approach it. I'm not creative, I'm very strategic. So I would look and think, okay, I'd write out the script of the top 5 TikToks, for example, in Skin Talk. I'd write it word for word and I look at the first 2 words because that's the hook. The first 2 words, if those 2 words are not good, no one's going to watch the rest of the content. It doesn't matter how great the video is. And while those 2 words are happening, what are they seeing and what are they hearing? So I'd almost write a chart out of words that are on the page, words they're hearing, and then what they're seeing. And I would write that out for the entire 15-second TikTok. That is now a fantastic template for me to then replicate for whatever I want to talk about. I might want to talk about retinol. I might want to talk about acne, whatever skin topic I want to discuss. I now have a great formula for me to literally follow because that has worked. And then you go a little bit deeper. Then you look at what camera angles are they using? Which parts of the body are they showing? Where is the natural light? What about this video do you like? So get really analytical about successful videos. And then you start to implement it into your own. And then the third step, which is probably the most painful step, is after you've done all of that and you think you've done a really good job, you need to go back with fresh eyes and really analyze those first 2 words where you really hooked. Be honest with yourself, because if the numbers aren't doing well, that's everything. That's telling you've messed up somewhere. You need to go back and do it again and again and again until you get it right. And for me, the fourth step, which is probably the most painful, it sounds like a very painful process, all of this, but the most painful for me is actually getting my husband to go and look. Because when a man who's very honest and really doesn't watch TikTok comes and gives you feedback, he's always spot on as to why maybe my competitor's doing better than I am. And my kids, my kids, I also watch their faces when they're watching my TikTok, to see, are they interested? Are they getting bored? Because they're also, kids are very honest.
So you didn't mention hashtags at all. So let's talk about hashtags. Are they important on TikTok, and how do you research them?
Okay, so what I did from the beginning was I created a new hashtag called Dr. V, D, like the whole word doctor and then V, because no one else had that hashtag. And I added that to every one of my videos, just to see how many total views we've had. I think we had like 700 million views. That's one way for me to see my total number of views of all my videos. Otherwise, you can't actually see that number. It only tells you month by month. So that's one thing I did. The second one was skin talk, is, so that's the genre. And then whatever the actual video is on would be hashtag acne. But the other thing I do is also the title page, whatever words are in the title page, when you do your heading, that is going to be the SEO also for TikTok. So use both those two together.
And how did you decide what you should put for your title?
It would be, what are people likely to be searching for? So for me, say it's acne dark mocks, so you just literally type in what you think you would type in if you were looking for that video.
Okay, that's great. And so really, you broke it down into a science and analyzed it. It sounds very much like a doctor would. And so approaching TikTok with an analytical, experimental mind is really important. Now, let's talk also about your bio and the way that you set up your bio. It's very, very simple. You don't have a ton of copy. It just says doctor and cosmetic formulator for skin of color. It's very specific, and you have an emoji. And this is important on TikTok, a very short, concise bio. Tell me more about why you chose the words you chose.
Honestly, that would be my niece. So when she set up my account, she basically wrote out that plus the flow pages. So I have lots of products, and I published a book with HarperCollins that came out last year. So we were promoting that. So that went onto the flow pages. Plus I've got a free guide so I can capture email addresses. So there's various marketing tools that I've used. But again, I don't even know how to set up flow pages. That was my niece. I wish I could take credit for that, but I can't. But I do recommend you use them.
You've been building a mailing list the whole time you've been building your social media account.
Yes,
and that
the last 3 years, yeah.
That's a very important message for people to hear, because in our social media superhero bootcamp on the last, the third day of training, I talk about the importance of getting people off of social media and getting them onto your email list. And I've just been listening to one of my mentors wrote a book called 2 Weeks Notice, Amy Porterfield. And I've been listening to her, re-listening to her book. And there's like 3 chapters on social media and list building. And people don't understand. You don't own the social media channel. You're like renting space on the social media channel. Now you really are renting space, because you have to pay a lot now to be on these channels and to get visibility. So the one thing you own is your mailing list. So having a strategy to get people off of social and onto the mailing list is really important. How are you doing that? Are you doing a call to action in your videos? At what point in your videos are you doing that? Or how are people getting to that flow page or that lead magnet?
When I first started and I had no products and I had no book, every single YouTube video would say, download my free e-guide from my website, skincarebydrv.com. So that was every single video. Right now, for example, on YouTube, we're on 90 million views. And I think the first 30 million views were me saying that. So we do capture quite a lot of emails that way. But then it started to become the book. The book is the thing that I really want to push, because then they have that for life. That's something that they can refer to. It was made to improve education in this field. So now each of my videos, I sign off with, join me on our private Facebook group, join me on our TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, download the book. And then you think, hold on, should we also tell them to download the free e-guide as well? So it gets a little bit much in terms of me redirecting people to different places, actually. But it's a good point. I probably should go back to download your free e-guide. And now that you mention it, I think I'm going to stick that back on to the end of my YouTube videos, actually.
So you do that on your YouTube videos, but you don't do that on your TikTok videos. So
no, not on TikTok.
So how are you using TikTok as a way of generating an audience?
Okay, so TikTok's a little bit different to YouTube in that, say, for example, you did have acne, right? What are you going to do? You're going to type that into Google. You're not going to type that into TikTok. You're going to type into Google, and at the top of Google is going to be the YouTube videos. And the ones with the most views are the ones they're going to come on the top. You're going to watch that. You're going to then build a connection, a human connection with that person after 15 minutes of watching them. If you like their content, you're going to trust them, and then you're going to do whatever advice they give you. That's not what happens on TikTok. On TikTok, you don't know what's going to hit and land on your For You page.
That is so true.
Yeah, it could literally be absolutely anything. And so you almost need to think of it as a passerby who may or may not have the condition you have, who may or may not care about what you're talking about. So it's a completely different mindset. You're not going to capture an email address after 10 seconds of a TikTok. It's just not going to happen. You have to think of it like a funnel. This is a fantastic way to get to millions of people, just to raise awareness of what you're doing, show the value you can add, give some truth bombs. I call them truth bombs. Every video should be loaded with truth bombs, which is like aha moments, which make people go, gosh, this person knows what they're talking about. They've opened my eyes to something I didn't know. They've saved me money, or they've saved my skin. They've saved me in some way. Let me follow. That's going to be the next step in the process. Once they follow, they're likely to then watch 20 of your TikTok videos before they go and maybe look at your Instagram, or maybe go and look you up on YouTube. When they do that, they look at your Instagram for maybe another month or so, and they start to like you, they build more of a connection with you, then they may go and buy a product of yours, or they might go and download your free e-guide, or go and watch you on YouTube. So it's a funnel. You're not going to go from TikTok to email address that fast. It won't happen.
I love
it's
that.
Just unrealistic. So it's playing the long game, to be honest, with TikTok compared to YouTube. Actually, YouTube is, even though it's a higher barrier to entry, it's much harder to make those videos. You're going to get much higher conversion. So we have 77% conversion rate of product sales come from YouTube. So if you have a product to sell, go to YouTube. If you are just trying to gain awareness, get to the millions of people, grow your following, then go to TikTok.
So tell me about your book. When did you start your TikTok account, and did your TikTok account help to raise awareness for the sale of your book? Do you think that there was a connection there?
I think now there's started to become more of a connection. I started, I think, about a year and a half ago, TikTok, maybe 2 years. It was during the pandemic at some point when I got to see my niece again. So I think it was 2021. Yeah, so 2 years ago. And at the beginning, I don't think it massively helped my book. I know other authors it really has, but my book is very niche. I think people who, for example, did psychology did very well. Sociology doctors did very well on there. But skincare is so niche. You're not going to see one TikTok and go and buy a book. Yeah. So it was more about getting them into the funnel. And then once you watch 1 or 2 YouTube videos, you're likely to go and buy the book at that point.
Okay, so let's talk. You already talked about something which I teach as well on the bootcamp, which is social media stacking, right? Social media network stacking. So in terms of stacking, you have YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. Which one did you start with? Which one did you add secondly? And which one did you add last?
So first, I actually did the wrong way around. So don't copy me. I started off with YouTube first. Oh no, Instagram first. And then YouTube, then TikTok. And I actually didn't think I was qualified to do any of it, to be honest. I thought, I just thought I was older. I thought I wasn't pretty enough to be on social media. I remember someone who worked for me, Noreen, who still is like my right-hand person. She's like, Doc, what are you talking about? Don't be ridiculous. She would force me in the clinic. She got this DSLR camera and started filming me. And if I didn't have that push, there's no way I would have done my first Instagram post. So you almost need someone in your corner to like tell you to stop being so ridiculous and just get on there. You know?
Well, yes, it's true. You do. And I think one of the things that we do at Tech Pixies is help women overcome their fears.
Yeah.
And you've just addressed some of them. You know, I'm too old. I'm not pretty enough. A lot of people say, what do people want to hear from me? You know, those are common questions.
Yeah.
So now, when you're talking about your content, are you repurposing the same content across the networks, or do you have very different tactics for each of the networks?
So what I find is, because I release content on every platform every day, it's a lot. And so I tend to literally upload the same. I create a type of short or TikTok which can work on all three platforms. So I make sure I get the hook in there fast. I make sure I'm giving enough truth bombs, enough information for it to do well on each and look aesthetically pleasing, so that I'm tackling the things that do well on each platform with my buy this, not that. So, for example,
I love your buy this, not that, by the way. That was when I was researching you, I was watching that. And in fact, it was really funny. I watched the one on lip balm because my son's been having some dry lips. And it was so funny because then I was in the store because I'd watched your video on not this, not that. And so I saw the Vaseline you recommended, hands down, is the best. So then, of course, I bought it. So, there you go. I do love those. So explain that style to people.
Right. So that style, it didn't just happen. I went through lots of different iterations of how to do this, and also looked at my competitors. I shouldn't really call them competitors. They're more like people in the same field as me that we collaborate with. But, it's good to see what they're doing, to see what's working and what's not working. So I looked to see what was working. I literally write out the script. I tweak one word every other video. Even look at the colors they were using. Everything, you really analyze every single thing, the font they're using as well. And eventually got to this style, which just every single time seemed to hit 50 to 100,000 views, sometimes 1 million views. And I thought, right, so this is a style people want. And that was it. And then I literally, it's like a template. Yesterday I released a video. It takes me an hour to edit the video. So for example, I went to America, went to Walgreens. I sat there for 3 hours. I filmed 12 or 15 different TikToks or shorts. And I just saved them in CapCut. That's the app that I use to edit on my phone. And then I would every week release 2. And that would be, Walgreens done. And I'll do the same for Boots. I do the same for CVS. I do the same for Sephora. And that would be one style of content. I know everybody loves that. That's really what they're looking for. And then other videos will go into more detail on one topic, for example.
So what you might do is do the this, not that. And then on the ones that you like, you go deeper onto that. So it's almost like you've got this, the comparison, and then you go deep on the one that you think would be good for people.
Or I would talk about just the topic. So it'd be like acne, for example, or hyperpigmentation. The other thing that does really well, which I need to do more of again, is our reaction videos. So when you see something odd on, you don't know a hack works, or is someone making something up, you'll tend to tag me in it if it's a skincare video, and you'll be like, Dr. V, what do you think about this? Does it work? Is it a scam? What do you think? And so reacting to those videos do very, very well as well, because that video is already done well. And now I am just adding extra value to that video. So it's almost like newsjacking. It's a similar concept in PR. And those videos, are going to do well. So I tend to release 2 or 3 of those videos a week as well. And I release those on all 3 platforms too.
So how much of your time, and this is an important question, how much of your time is content creation and editing and then posting? I mean, realistically, we have, if you're talking about a 40-hour week, how much of those 40 hours is dedicated to creating your content?
So I batch my work when it comes to filming. So for example, I say I've got a date day with my husband. We'll go down to the shopping center. We'll watch a movie, but I'll ask him, I'll just say, I'll take an hour. Or he goes to a coffee shop. I'll go take an hour, go down to Boots, film maybe 4 different videos. And that I know that content will last me, a couple of weeks. And in the evening, it takes me about an hour and a half to edit one reel. But for example, at the weekend, I went to Amsterdam. I taught in Amsterdam to 1,000 practitioners and filmed that whole experience. That took me 3 hours to edit that content, for example. So a vlog is going to take a lot longer than, buy this, not that. And the quickest, honestly, are reaction videos. They take 10 minutes of just writing a little bit of text on there. And I'm literally
when you're doing a reaction video, are you doing the duet or are you doing
duet.
The stitch?
I both, but I tend to prefer duets because then you can go through the whole thing.
But on a duet, your sound doesn't come. It's
yes, I'm pointing at the screen, and then the text. I'll write the text out what I'm thinking.
Whereas with a stitch, then it's a piece of another video. Because I've seen you do all of them, and I was showing the examples of the stitch and the duet that you use to our students because you've used them all, and I think that's important. So you've got this, not that videos. You've got the reaction videos.
Yeah.
And in both, you're taking one that's already doing well, and then you're adding to it, really. And when you're saying you were watching other people do this, not that, and then when you were crafting yours, you were just making small tweaks to the script. So really getting the script off of these videos and working with the videos or working with the script is really important. And
absolutely.
So how do you remember the script? Are you reading it or do you memorize it? How do you do that part?
Which bit, for the reaction or the by this, not that?
No, when you create your own, when you're creating your own video and are you reading the script? Do you know the script by heart? Are you using a teleprompter?
No, so with by this, not that, I do it because I know the information in my head. I'll just film the product. What you don't see me doing is turning the product around, looking at the ingredients list and giving myself notes, voice notes. So I can't see it because it's really small, but I'll voice note it while I'm in Boots. So I'll say, this product's got X, Y, Z, but it's got this. I would rate it this. So that's what you don't see me doing. But
then you voice that over later.
Exactly. Then I put that as text and voiceover on the front of the packaging. So it's really easy.
And you're using CapCut to do all of your videos.
CapCut is the best. Absolutely.
I know it is. Well, we were just talking about that, and actually, one of the cool things that CapCut does is it gives you extra space and memory if you share CapCut. So, of course, I'm going to share ours, techpixies.com for CapCut. That's a way for us to get more storage. We've already got a full gig, I think, now. So if you want to use ours, you get more storage and we get more storage. So anyone who's watching Tech Pixies for the first time or doesn't know about CapCut, go grab that. It's really interesting because one of the things that we do is introduce software to people who might not know about it. And, it's funny because CapCut was actually introduced to me by my kids who are, 11 and 13. So
amazing.
And it's owned by the same company that owns TikTok.
Yes, that's brilliant. That's exactly what I love about it. You get that TikTok feel.
It's designed to work. And I definitely prefer creating my videos there because then I don't have the watermarks on each of the channels.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just have a couple other questions for you if you have some more time for us.
Of course.
So the regularity of your posting on TikTok, what would you say? How regular are you? What's your frequency?
I would wish I was doing it every day. I think most days I get it out, but maybe worst case every other day.
Okay, every other day. And because I was explaining that in our TikTok module that unlike the other channels where you can sort of dial back to once a week, it's a channel you've got to sort of be on and do. But what you're saying is that batching really helps you with that. And do you pre-schedule your content or do you just schedule it directly onto the network?
No, it's all in CapCut. So then I would just pick, which video do I fancy editing today? And so right now I've got about 50 videos just sitting in my CapCut ready to be edited. And I'll just pick whatever I feel like, editing and upload that. So.
And when you film a video, do you do a long video and then do lots of splicing and cutting, or do you lots of short videos and then combine them?
With the by this, not that?
Or with any of your videos?
So with the by this, not that, I would do lots of small videos. So one per product. And so I'd show the front, hold it there for about 3 seconds, flip it over, talk about it. That would be one video. And then that day I would group those videos into different files on CapCut, and I would label it. So this would be like Dior review, or this would be, the Inky List review, and now I know what that video is, I can just go in, it's already lined up for me, very easy. I just need to spend 1 hour editing it and upload.
Okay. Well, so it just depends on the content that you're creating, how you do a longer video or a short video.
Yeah.
And I mean, when we talk about engagement and growth, those come purely from the kind of content you've been able to generate and improve over time, or are there any other strategies that you've used to grow an engaged following?
I don't know. It feels like happens in spurts, and I don't know if it's the algorithm, but sometimes you could put out great videos, have great views, and not get any growth. And other times you put out videos that are doing okay, but the growth is going insane. So I don't even think it's that linear how the growth is working. I don't know whether you might have a piece of content that might really resonate with a huge number of people, and people really want to learn more, and that's why they follow. Or it could also be someone else has tagged you on theirs. So I get a lot of TikTokers who will repost my content. I don't even know it's happening, and suddenly we're getting more followers. So that also happens. But I also look to see, a lot of people tag me in people who need help, and because I sell product, I would give a lot of product for free to anyone who, so for example, has eczema or has hyperpigmentation. They will then take that product and make a video on it. And these guys already have huge followings. And so you're getting more views that way. And so there's a lot of collaboration as well that can happen on TikTok.
And we know you're on 3 channels that you use quite often: YouTube and Instagram and TikTok. So you're saying every other day, more or less, on TikTok. What about your YouTube and Instagram channels?
Same.
Okay.
And actually daily, probably on Instagram stories as well.
Okay.
And I've got 2 channels on Instagram. So I've got Skincare by Dr. V and Dr. Vanita Rattan. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So you're so
twice as hard, basically.
Going back to the question of how much time is taking you to do this, but you are repurposing some of that content. It's not it's not all uniquely different on the
no, not at all.
Would you release the same video on both networks on the same day, or would you pace them out so they're different content on the same day?
There's just no time. It would just have to all go out same day, same time, move on, because just the amount of content that I'm making. If I did that, I would forget about that video completely. So even to the point that I know it's smarter for me to wait until the evening, for example, to upload my video, but I've edited it by 11 a.m. I know I'm going to be editing another video later, and I'll probably upload that, and I would have forgotten about my 11 a.m. video. So I literally, the second I've edited it, I upload it, and I'm moving on to the next project, because I will forget otherwise. I also, for example, 2 weeks ago, I launched our hair range specifically for Afro hair. It was a massive event. We had 20 people come down. We had 12 hairstylists. We hired the entire hair salon. There's all that content that I still haven't even uploaded. And this was 10 days ago. Since then, I've been to Amsterdam and I've released so much other content. Now I've got to go back and go, there's all that content I still have to release. So it's almost like there is always too much content, and I haven't got time to wait.
And that, I'm sure, is the next question in our listeners' minds, our viewers' minds. What's your day job? So you obviously, content creation is a big part of what you do, because that is leading to sales of your products. Is that the main focus?
Yes.
Yeah.
So basically, during the pandemic, so I had a chain of skincare clinics. During the pandemic, I had to close the clinics. We were paying, for rent and rates and, staff. So we weren't getting any furlough money. So we were hemorrhaging money, and we weren't sure how long this was going to go on for. So we had to make a really tough decision at that point, mid-pandemic, was, do we close the clinics? Do I try and become big on social media? Do we try and pivot and start a brand new business that's scalable in product that we can then sell globally on the back of social media marketing? There was a lot of ifs, and it was a really scary time, to be honest. And I've got 2 children who are, still very young and very dependent and very expensive. So it was a difficult time. It was a difficult decision, but it really lit the fire in me to ensure I was successful on social media. There was no room for failure.
Actually, I want to go back to something you said, because you were
Yeah.
making decisions, and it wasn't like, do I want to try launching a skincare brand? It was like, do I want to launch a global social media account with a global skincare brand? Like, you came into this with a real intention, and it's really interesting because that intention matters so much. And I watched the Shania Twain documentary over the weekend, and I talked about it on our Mindset Monday. And there's this scene in the Shania Twain documentary where she's spent 10 years with one manager, and they've done really well together. She's sort of done everything she can in country music, but it's time to move beyond country music and do something else. And she knows at this point, she knows who she is. She knows what she wants. She wants to move into pop. She wants to be global, and she wants to, basically make it on the international stage. Yeah. And she knows exactly what she wants. So she goes to this new manager, and he's asking her what her goals are. And she lays these 3 goals out crystal clear. This is what I want. And it was to be big. And that's, bigger than you could possibly imagine. And she then ended up becoming, the greatest pop artist of all time for her generation. And, I think it's incredible, her story, because it took her a while to figure out who she was, took her a while to figure out what she wanted. She spent 10 years in country music before she then really leaned into this international global career. But what you just said was so clear. It was like, I'm going to give this up, but I'm going for broke. I'm going for the big,
there's no backup plan.
Yeah. Or
no backup plan. And
in America, they had a thing called Oregon or bust. As people were going out to Oregon, they would put on the back of their wagons, Oregon or bust, so I'm just going to go for it. And there is no room for failure. And you just stayed focused on it. That intention is exceptional. And I think that's the reason. I think we've just identified that's the reason this thing has gone where it's gone, because you had such a clear vision once you made that decision. Now, it was scary to make that decision. You said that.
Yeah. It's terrifying. The more fear, though, the more successful you're going to be, I feel. If it's a need over a should, you will always succeed, because there is, death is the other option. If you can't make money, what are you going to do? So it feels like a life or death situation. And when you're in that kind of life or death situation, you're going to work every single hour you can to make something successsucul, rather than, I might dabble in this, and I might try a bit of this, and I feel a bit deflated that this thing didn't work. If something doesn't work, you go back and you redo it 10 times, 12 times, 20 times, and you keep improving it until you get there. So it's that also focus and work ethic that has to be there. If it's not going to be there, there's just no point doing social media, because it's such a difficult arena, especially if you've not been born and brought up in it. It's not in our DNA. We have to come in almost like an alien into a new field, new set of rules. We don't write, at school we were taught how to write essays. This is their version of writing essays. And they've been doing it since for the last 20 years. We're just like playing catch up at this point in our stage of life.
Well, that was a really powerful point. And, one of the things for our Tech Pixie listeners who are going, oh my gosh, I'm not going to do that. Here's the deal. Whatever your intention is your intention. Dr. V is building a global brand that she can sell one day, probably for millions and millions and millions of pounds. That's her vision, right? That's her vision. That's her dream. L'Oreal, the gal, you've probably read the book, Believe It by Jamie Kern Lima. But, Jamie Kern Lima, she built a business. She sold for $1 billion to L'Oreal. She became the first female CEO of L'Oreal, right? She built a big, big business. That's what Dr. V wants to do. That's what Jamie Kern Lima wanted to do, right? So if you're listening to this and you're like, that's not on my vision board, I don't want to be a global superstar on social media, that's okay too. And you can use social media to build a very successful business, even if it's not $1 billion business, right? Or, you don't have those aspirations. What we're saying here is, if you're wanting to build $1 billion business, that's the methodology you use, the one that you've gone for. And that's, and everyone has a different intention with why they're using social media. I just absolutely love what you're doing. Because I also love really ambitious women. And I one of the things that came out in the Shania Twain documentary was there were stages to her development. She didn't go from an 8-year-old singing in a bar to being a global superstar overnight. It was a 40-year process. And she went through different managers and different levels of awareness and different levels of growth to get there. So also realizing that you may have a big dream that you haven't discovered yet, because you've got to go through the smaller stages to get there. And just like she did. So I think there's so much truth in that. But what I love about you is you know what you want. You're very clear on it. You went all in on this, and this is why it's working for you. And I think that's really important for people to hear. Now, I have one last question for you. Let's talk about analytics. We've talked about a lot of the main things that we teach at Tech Pixies, but I'm really curious, which analytics matter to you? And you already gave us one tip with creating your own hashtag so that you can see how many views your hashtag is getting. But what other tips do you have? What other tips do you have that could help us with the analytics? Where are we? What are we looking for in our analytics?
So for TikTok, I tend to look at number of saves of a video. I tend to look back over the last 2 weeks, see which videos of mine have got the highest number of saves. Why do I think that video did particularly well? Can I redo that video or replicate it or improve it in any way? Because if it's been successful once and I tweak it, it's likely to be successful again. So that's one thing that I do. The second thing that I do is for me is how also funneling to the website and how many sales I'm making on the back of from TikTok or from YouTube. So I look at that number, and it's very odd. That number is increasing from TikTok compared to what it was even a year ago. And a year ago, I think I was on about 500,000 followers. So it's quite a decent number. But actually, the rate of people getting to the website is far more than double. And I think part of the reason is people have been following me for a year. So since then, now they're coming to conversion point. And it just doesn't happen straight away on TikTok. It's not going to happen after 1 or 2 TikToks. They do need to be with you for a while, build a relationship with you before they then want to buy anything from you.
And actually, that's a point, because I'm now just realizing when you're doing a lot of these videos and you're doing like a Dior one, or I watched like the Charlotte Tilbury one. When you're doing those ones, you're not actually talking about your product. When do you do your product placement?
I know. And that's a very, very difficult fine line that I have to walk, because I'm basically becoming judge and jury and executioner of a field that I'm also making product in, and I'm also a competitor for. And so I have to be so disciplined with the ingredients that I'm looking at, with completely fresh eyes, ready to recommend someone else's product over my product, which is not a comfortable position for any entrepreneur to be in. And that's why people don't do it. But it is, if you can manage that fine line, and if you can, say, don't buy my thing, go and buy someone else's product because it's cheaper, because it's got this thing in it over my thing. If you can do that, you will dominate that entire industry. And I think it's a very, very tricky fine line to walk, and people are going to come in ready to criticize you, skeptical from the beginning. And so you have to be even harder on yourself if you decide to do what I'm doing, basically.
Okay, that's really interesting. Well, I think this is the kind of podcast someone's going to listen to over and over and over again. I am so grateful to Srijal for the introduction, and also, just to get to spend 40 minutes with someone who dreams big is such a pleasure, because I think we're still, as women, we're still learning how to dream big, and to be in the presence of someone who does dream big and who thinks big and goes for that is just incredible. And that doesn't for 1 second belittle where everyone else is at as they're on their journey. We are in a spiral universe. We expand, and our awareness increases as we move through the different stages that we're at. So if you're listening to this, just be inspired by it and take away from it, the fact that here's someone who's figured out her big dream. here's someone who's leaning into her big dream. Here's someone who's making her big dream happen. And, be as grateful as I am that we got to have this time together.
I totally agree with everything you said about also as women, learning to dream big. I think we were born actually dreaming big. I think sometimes society then almost programs us to tell us what we can and can't do, or almost pigeonholes us into a role that we've seen our parents go through maybe, and we just copy that same blueprint. So what I think one reason I'm very, very fortunate is because the people around me, from my father to my husband to my kids, my mom, everybody is really believes that, men and women can both smash it in whatever they want to do well at, and, reach the stars regardless of your gender. So me and my husband are both co-parents at home. So I went to Amsterdam this weekend to teach, and he was a single dad looking after the kids, and we do that for each other. So
and I completely agree with you on the co-parenting thing. I think it's very important to, if a woman wants to dream big and think big, she's got to bring people around her who can help her do that. Yeah. You're not going to be able to do it all alone, and you do need that support. And where can people find your skin products?
So on skincare by drv.com, we specialize in skincare for skin of color. So the vast majority of skincare on the shelves was made for Caucasian skin, and it just comes down to representation in terms of who the cosmetic formulator is. They tend to make products for their skin type. And so you don't really find many cosmetic formulators with skin of color. And so this is why it's quite underrepresented area of skincare. And so that's what I specialized in.
Well, Dr. V, you have an amazing, beautiful future ahead of you, and you know it. And I'm so excited to watch that unfold. And I'm so grateful that you were here today. And many thanks to Srijal. I know she's there with you in the background.
She's here.
So Srijal, thank you for organizing this. Thank you for being there to help us today. And I just want to, encourage anyone listening to this to really ask yourself, really go deep, ask yourself that question. Am I dreaming big enough? And if I could take off the limitations, what would I want to do with my life? Because you've just got the perfect example of someone who's done that. And I'm pretty sure she doesn't regret it.
No. All right. I tell my daughter as well, dream so big, it terrifies you. If it's not scaring you, you're not dreaming big enough.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I'm just going to close on that. That's the last thing we need to hear today. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And I appreciate it.
My pleasure.